Quite a while ago, I posted a Redstone 101 video regarding quasi-connectivity. Apparently, according to some of the comments I got, that wasn't actually quasi-connectivity. It's actually a different property called power and activation. Quasi-connectivity doesn't actually exist in Bedrock Edition, and is something Mojang apparently intends to keep out of this version for reasons some of us don't even understand. After doing some research, I managed to figure out what the difference is between the two terms. So, what really is quasi-connectivity and what is power and activation? Let's find out. What's up, agents? Zero here and welcome to Redstone 101. This is the show that'll teach you more about Redstone so that you can build better contraptions. And before I get started, I just want to apologize to anyone who watched that Quasi-Connectivity video and actually believed that was actually what was going on. That is actually not Quasi-Connectivity. So here what I'm going to do is, from here on out, whenever I do a Redstone 101 video, and this is barring Mojang decides to add more components to Redstone, to Bedrock Edition, I just want to let you guys know that from here on out, I'm actually going to do a lot more research on the actual Redstone itself before I do another episode of Redstone 101. And again, I want to apologize that I did not end up getting that right the first time. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're actually going to be looking at is actually power and activation. Now, if you go back to my Quasi-Connectivity video, as I mentioned, that is actually not quasi-connectivity. This is actually power and activation. If you go back and watch that video and replace quasi-connectivity with the term power and activation, the rules will still apply. It's just a completely different term. But yeah, I'm going to give you guys a really quick explanation as to what power and activation is. And if you guys want to check out the original Quasi-Connectivity video, which admittedly is wrong at this point, there will be a link down in the description. So let me go ahead and show you guys what power and activation is. So if we go to the back of this repeater is being directed into this center redstone lamp. But as you can tell, there is a plus sign being made out of the redstone lamps. This is how power and activation works. This redstone lamp in the center is what is known as power. Basically what this means is that it will be able to give a redstone signal out any adjacent side, which is what is actually happening with these four redstone lamps right here. These four redstone lamps are what is known as activate. They get the redstone signal from the adjacent block, but they do not give a redstone signal off to any other side, which is the reason why these four corner redstone lamps are not turning on. That is the exact reason why power and activation is working the way it is. So as you can tell, obviously it's working both horizontally and it's also working vertically. So you can actually use the fact that power and activation is working in these two directions to your advantage. And the way you can actually do that is actually by using it in farms. Now, there are two examples that I have been able to think of. This one is for farms such as wheat farms, potato farms, carrot farms, that kind of thing. I have actually seen people use the exact same mechanic for using cocoa bean farms instead of what I do, which is using pistons pushing and moving around blocks. Some people actually end up using water to break cocoa beans, and you can actually use power and activation to the exact same extent that you're going to use here, except you're going to be using it vertically, if that makes any sense. Probably doesn't. So here's how this works. If I go ahead and press this button, as you can see, it powered all these dispensers, which if I go ahead and go inside of this, you can see there is an empty bucket inside of all three of this. If I go ahead and press this button again, if we go ahead and look inside of it, now all three of them have water inside of the buckets. And if we go to the back, this is using the exact same power and activation thing that I was talking about over there. This single repeater is powering this dispenser. This dispenser is activating these two other dispensers, which is allowing all three of them to dispense their water buckets. Now, this is actually really useful because then you can actually end up saving on redstone resources. One thing I have seen some people do, which is actually not the most efficient way to do it, I'm going to be completely honest. They have a block right here with a piece of redstone dust on top of it. Then they have a block right here with a piece of redstone dust on top of it. Then they have a dispenser here, and then a block right here with a repeater on this, and just so on and so forth. That is not the most ideal way to actually go about doing things. So let me go ahead and show you guys what is actually the best way to go ahead and make use of the resources you have. So I'm just going to make a little bit of an example here. So if I go ahead and place down dispensers like this, and this one's going to be facing up because I don't really have a good way of facing it forward. If I go ahead and place blocks along just like this, place a repeater right here, and then place redstone dust along just like this, then all 6 of these dispensers would in fact end up being powered / activated just because of the way the redstone is connected. So that is one thing that you guys should keep in mind using this technique. Now that is actually it for power and activation. Now we're actually going to get into quasi-connectivity, which, as I said at the intro of the video, does not exist within Bedrock Edition. So everything that you're going to see right now, this does not work. However, if you're playing on Console Edition or you're playing on Java Edition, then these things should in fact work. But because I am technically on Bedrock Edition, this is nothing that actually exists. So here's what basically what quasi-connectivity is. Basically, it's allowing things such as pistons, dispensers, and droppers to be powered / activated when in reality they probably shouldn't. But according to Mojang, the quasi-connectivity term is actually something that is supposed to be working. Some people think that is actually a bug, but it's actually working as intended. I've got 4 examples of what quasi-connectivity would actually be if it actually existed in Bedrock Edition. This is the first example. So this redstone torch is actually powering this redstone lamp, but it is not actually powering this piston right here. Now, quasi-connectivity says that this piston would in fact activate, but because there's no quasi-connectivity available in Bedrock Edition, as you can tell, the piston is not powered in any form. So now we're going to move on to this little contraption right here. This is what was originally supposed to be a redstone torch key. However, because they removed it, this actually worked at one point. This actually contained quasi-connectivity. However, it was deemed as a bug, and therefore the feature was actually removed. So it does not work the way it used to. Inside of this chest, I have a redstone torch and a lever. So here's what was supposed to happen. You would put down a redstone torch right here, or you could in fact place it down right here. And what would happen is that depending on where you put the redstone torch, it would either power this block right here or this block, which would allow this piston to activate, push down this block. This block would go directly above this redstone torch, which would allow this repeater to power, which would turn on this redstone dust, powering this piston, which would then push up and break your redstone torch. And that is exactly what redstone torch key would have done. But because this feature was removed, as you can tell, it no longer works whatsoever. However, you can do the same thing with a lever, and it does exactly the same, and it works exactly as it's supposed to, just not with a redstone torch like it was originally intended to be. This is another example of what quasi-connectivity would actually end up doing. This is what is known as a Jeb door. Now, Jeb doors are actually a lot more complicated on Bedrock Edition, strictly because the quasi-connectivity effect does not work inside of Bedrock Edition. So let me go ahead and turn this on. as you can tell, it only turned on the top half of the circuit. Had quasi-connectivity existed, because these pistons on top would be powered, the pistons down on bottom would in fact be powered as well. And this is why a lot of people are trying to make Jeb doors work as flawlessly as they can in Bedrock Edition, because this is a thing that does not actually end up working. And lastly, I have this thing right here. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I don't necessarily know if this is supposed to be quasi-connectivity or not. I know some of you will be able to correct me down in the comment section below. I'm saying right now, I don't actually know if this is supposed to be quasi-connectivity. I wanted to show off this example because this is something I know works in Java Edition. So if we go ahead and turn on this lever, what would happen in Java Edition would in fact power this piston, because for whatever reason the air block above the piston would actually somewhat act like a solid block, which would then end up powering the piston. Actually, let me go ahead and demonstrate. If I go ahead and place a block right here, now the piston is activated because this block is powered, therefore the piston is activated. But in Java Edition and Console Edition as well, because this isn't there, this would actually end up powering the piston, all things considered. And I don't understand why. I'm assuming it is quasi-connectivity. I'm not 100% sure, but this would in fact power the piston itself. Now, there will be a world download in the description if you guys want to go ahead and check out this for yourself, but that's actually going to have to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure that like button. One more than make sure that subscribe button for future content. Also, you can find me on Twitter at AgentCPU0 to stay updated. This has been Zero Studios. Thank you guys for watching, and with that, I will see you guys later.